How much do you have to lose in thinking that you can win? How much do we actually have to lose in our effort to try? I think that the most important thing that we can ever do for ourselves is give ourselves enough to get. Give ourselves enough validity, enough passion, enough effort, and enough perspective to accommodate our goals and aspirations. At the end of the day, you have nothing to lose in doing so. I think that a lot of us think that we lose time or we lose this, we lose that, but time is going to pass regardless. So I think it's important to not necessarily regard time as much as we do in terms of importance relative to our goals and relative to our actions. I feel like you could still do whatever you need to do and do a little bit more in order to achieve anything that you want. But overall, I think it's about giving yourself enough of a perspective to actually think that you can. I think belief is one of the most important things when it comes to cultivating anything. It'll open the door to your viewpoint that actually allows you to see the opportunities and see the goals that you actually wish to achieve. And I think all of that starts with you being present enough to choose positivity, present enough to choose thinking about your goals and thinking about yourself in a way that actually benefits you. I think too often we hark on ourselves in terms of negativity and we really don't, in a way, allow things to be. And that's one thing I'm realizing most of all right now. And I think that the main thing that helps me in the achievement of my goals and achievement of anything I do is belief that I can. Not living into or not living in a reality or in a headspace where I actually can't achieve my goals. Like thinking that, oh, this is going to be hard. I don't know if I can. Just telling myself I can. Establishing some type of, not distance, but at least putting yourself above the madness that's out there. Putting yourself above any type of doubt or any type of negativity that could ensue. I think I'm just now starting to understand what I don't know if anyone's read Marcus Aurelius or anything like that, but he talks about like embracing negativity in a way or accepting negativity as it is. And I think at first I'm like, why are we trying to think of negative stuff? But I don't think it's even about that. I think it's about acknowledging a negative possibility to an extent and truly accepting it. Like, oh, that could happen. This is the worst it could be, or this is this. You know, going out into your day and saying, oh, I know that it all might not go in my favor. It all might not work out. I know this is sort of sounds negative, blah, 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 but it's not. I feel like once you accept that, then you can actually start your day without expectations of things to go a certain way for you. And in that way, you can implant your own optimism and own perspective and own effort into your life rather than being so outcome oriented, rather than being so event disposed. I think once we accept the possibility of negativity, we're actually able to create our own positivity because it won't necessarily just be about, you know, your fear and your constant attachment to things all going right. And instead, you're going to allow yourself to actually be within the moment and actually allow yourself to try to get whatever you want. There's always a chance of failure if there's a chance of success. But that doesn't mean you don't try. That means you try hard. That means you give it your all. That means you act as if you actually can achieve that something. So you're more suited to actually achieve it. If we constantly go in with this idea that we can't achieve or we can't do this or we can't do that, then we're never going to be able to. He who thinks he can and he who thinks he can't are both correct. And I think it's always about the reality you give to your aspiration. It's about feeling like you can. It's about feeling how you would if you were to achieve that something right now in the present moment. Because why should you wait to give yourself that kind of gratitude and that type of affirmation, especially if you're the one who's achieving that? You have to give yourself the support now. You have to pat yourself on the back now and give yourself your accolades before they even need to be achieved to some extent. I'm not saying do it to the point where you're comfortable and you don't want to achieve your accolade because you're like, oh, I got it in mind or I have it in thought. A goal without action is just a thought. I think it's always about the actions that we ensue, the actions that we express relative to our goals, relative to our aspirations that actually manifest them into reality. It's about the passion we give to every moment and the drive that we give to the possibility. I think when we invest our energy into a possibility, into a positive outlook, into a effort, then we are way more likely to create it than if we actually don't think we can. I think anything that we give our attention to, our energy goes to. And if we invest our energy into the present moment, into this unknown, into possibility, then possibility is what we're going to receive. It's always been that way, and I feel like it will always be that way. So at the end of the day, it's really just about being present enough to instill some type of good feeling, instill some type of faith within yourself, instill some type of love within yourself enough to actually go towards your aspirations and go towards your goals. I feel like until I did this, there was no change in my life. I didn't really see a change in anything until I actually changed my perspective. And I'm talking about, my success as it pertains to my goals and aspirations. I feel like when I lived in that fear and sort of took a backseat role, like, oh, I could fail if I tried, nothing really happened. Even if I was doing it subtly and still felt like, oh, this might not work out, blah, 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 then it wouldn't. It's about going on into that perspective. Not saying give up everything, not saying drop all your responsibilities, not saying don't care about anything or anyone, but care so deeply about yourself that you actually try to get things that you care about. And that's, I feel like, the bottom line. I feel like that's the prerequisite. Because once we are able to do that, then anything we achieve will sort of sit on top of that. And that's why I also feel like not necessarily embracing that negativity, but accepting the propensity for the world to not go in your favor is okay. Not saying that you should go into the world like, oh, nothing's going to work out, or nothing's going to go in my favor today, but saying, this day is going to be what it is. Period. And not setting any expectations, or at least setting an expectation with yourself, like, I'm going to be positive as much as I can today. I feel like that's where your expectations can be set with yourself. Like when I wake up in the morning, or every week, I sort of set a certain intention. And I think this week's was like a reestablishment of foundation, reestablishment of what I was building stuff on top of. And I feel like that is what I carried into every day. Rather than, expecting things to go a certain way, because you never know. I think we a lot of times try to play future predictor, and we take away the answers to our questions by trying to answer them before we actually get to the solution. You feel me? So I think it's just about walking forward. Coming into each day with a certain newness, a certain perspective that accommodates you. And I feel like that's what it means to treat every day like it's new. It's to treat yourself like you're new every day. Give yourself that same passion, that same energy, as if you were like a child in a way. Bring that childlike self back to the present, because you're still exploring the world. You still have so much left to see, to experience. And I think we familiarize ourselves with everything so much that we fail to realize that each day is new. Each day is something we have yet to experience. Each day is something beautiful if we allow it to be. And especially if we allow ourselves to be part of the day that we're in. And what I mean by that is allowing ourselves to be present. I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in our fear and our anxiety and our worry, and I feel like I'm definitely a person in that regard too. But recently, the thing that's been able to get me out of that headspace, get me out of that, that mentality is accepting things as they are, not as I am. Any type of fear, any type of distance, any type of anxiety, stress that we feel relative to a situation is within us. It's us holding on to an attachment to a certain outcome, us holding on to a certain attachment with ourselves. And I think it's not necessarily about saying that, oh, this negative thing is going to happen, or not saying that you don't care. But caring and feeling negative about something are two very different things. I could want this thing to go a certain way, and I could want it that bad. But I shouldn't base how I feel about myself and how I feel on a day-to-day surrounded by that external circumstance. You have to be the one to deposit some type of foundation in your life. And when we build our foundation on top of external things, then it always is likely to collapse. Anything will collapse with no foundation, and nothing in an external sense, I feel like, is going to be as permanent as you are here. As long as you're alive, as long as you exist, you're going to be there with yourself. So why not invest your foundation where you'll always be? Why not invest your foundation somewhere where you can always access it, where you can always give it to yourself? And that's why I feel like it's important to embrace some type of self-love and type of affirmation, some type of giving yourself what you expect to get from the world, so you no longer need it from the world. And I feel like that's also part of it. Not expecting the world to give you the things that you should be able to give to yourself. And when I say should, I don't necessarily mean that everyone who can't necessarily give themselves love is wrong. I feel like society and in certain circumstances have taught us in a way to not love ourselves. But that's all the more reason for us to actually make attempts and lose nothing in trying to love ourselves. We have nothing to lose in loving ourselves and giving ourselves positivity and giving ourselves an opportunity to actually achieve what we want. I feel like if we constantly sit in our worry and doubt and constantly sit in the same cycles we have been, then all we're going to do is repeat them. The best way to break this cycle is to not be within it, to be here, to be where you are and make choices that don't contribute to the same thing over and over again. Giving yourself enough love to actually change your patterns and change your behavior so you actually can change your outcomes. I feel like a lot of us are outcome oriented because we want things to be a certain way, but we don't want to change the way that we're doing things that cause that outcome. It's about everything in its totality. And that's why I feel like it's about accepting what is. And that's why I feel like it's about recognizing that you have nothing to lose. You give yourself a positive perspective and something negative happens, okay, cool. At least you were positive. At least you are positive. You have a negative perspective, something positive happens. You're still negative. You lost everything. Something negative happens, you're negative. You lost everything. All I'm saying is, it's more important to invest some type of positivity where you are rather than where you're going. And I feel like it's not even about, disregarding the possibility of positivity in the future. I feel like that's also important too. But I feel like it's about vesting it here. Keeping a sort of a watchful eye in the world, being present and being happy about what you have yet to experience. Like for me, it's about smiling and watching as in being present and keeping a smile, like even at least in an internal sense, at least in an optimistic sense for what is yet to come. But recognizing that I have to feel it here. I have to be here to experience that, because whenever something else arises and I'm already feeling good, even if it's negative, it's about more so how I can solve this situation rather than how I feel this way about this and how this feeling contributes to this and how do I get out of this feeling and it's allowing things to be as they are because you have a set way that you are. You have a set way that you've accepted yourself to be. And I feel like even so, it's not necessarily just about, holding on to some type of ideal with yourself, because I feel like letting go is what makes it stay. It's about allowing yourself to be fluid and not letting yourself be so attached to certain ideas and certain words and certain connotations that strip you away from yourself. I feel like we separate ourselves from ourselves a lot with our fears and a lot with our anxieties. It's about truly accepting ourselves for the situation. If we feel bad about something, accepting that. Accepting things as they are. And that's the only way I feel like to truly overcome negative or overcome the negative is to accept it. Not try to overpower with your mind and be like, no, it can't be this way. No, this can't be this way because this is another. Accept it as it is. And then you'll actually be able to see it for what it is. Otherwise, you're just going to see it as a problem and you're going to see a manifestation of your own fear and your own anxiety. And it's going to become a lot bigger than you are. And that's why I feel like it's important to give yourself enough perspective and broaden your perspective of yourself enough to accommodate little things. So you can be above them. So you can be truly able and suited to overcome them. Otherwise, it's just going to be like, oh, I'm smaller than this situation. And it's going to become your whole life. Who you are is much bigger than your issues, much bigger than your problems, much bigger than your successes and all your aspirations. So you have to give yourself enough presence to be here and recognize the vastness that is within the human character, vastness that's within you in terms of your potential and in terms of what has already occurred. A lot of us has changed so much more than we actually recognize. And it may not seem like that from an external sense, but at least for myself, every week, almost every month, I recognize stark differences between myself and who I was in the past, by how I react to certain things and how I'm contributing to my growth. And I feel like all of it is stemming from my relative ability to continue to be optimistic with myself, continue to keep instilling some type of I can mentality, some type of love, some type of passion within myself that actually allows me to continue to move forward with my aspirations and everything that I'm doing. A lot of stuff is unknown to me. Everybody doesn't really know what they're doing 100% of the time, but I know I'm going to do something. I don't know what it's going to contribute to, but That's what I'm going to find out by doing it, you know? And I feel like we often try to answer that for ourselves so often, it becomes so habitual that we don't actually invest ourselves into what we're doing because we already have an expectation for how it's going to go. If you already knew you're going to fail a test, then what's the point in studying? Like, if you already know this art piece that you're going to make is going to be bad, then there's no point in really trying to make it good. That's why I feel like it's important to open yourself up to the possibility of your own success. Open yourself up to the possibility of good. You lose nothing in thinking that you can win. You lose nothing in thinking that you can win in a real way. It's always about you feeling it before you experience it. I feel like our feelings always act as a catalyst to our experience, at least to a subtle degree. And whether or not you believe in manifestation or that type of spiritual aspect, I feel like it doesn't even matter. Because if you go into the world with a negative perspective of yourself and you feel negative about what you're about to encounter, regardless of what you encounter, it's going to have a negative tinge to it because you're a part of the situation that you encounter too. I feel like a lot of us are so involved in dissociated in the same way. We feel like we're not a part of every situation, like we're some type of distant observer when we really are the situation. So it's important to invest some type of positivity within the situation, even if that means just investing it into yourself so you can see the situation for what it is instead of what you are, instead of what your fears are. And yeah, it's just about love, for real. Giving yourself enough to get is about giving yourself love. Giving yourself love enough to choose a perspective, to choose a way of thinking, to choose an intention, and going with it because that's what you want. Not because of what you experienced in your past, but because of what you want. And I feel like it's not even about, do I deserve it? Do I deserve this? It's about, do you want it? I feel like we spend too much time trying to determine whether or not we're deserving of this or deserving of that. Do you want it? You can be honest with yourself in terms of your own character, your own this, your own that. And as long as that certain aspiration, of course, doesn't harm other people, then it's just about, do you want it? And giving yourself enough to go get it. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you very much. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you are taking care of yourself. Yeah, I think it's just about giving yourself enough to get in a lot of situations and recognizing that you have nothing to lose, really. So thank you.